Good morning. Can I welcome everyone to this General Licensing Subcommittee? First item on the agenda is to nominate Chair. So could I ask for nominations of Chair, please?
I nominate Councillor Pandy.
Thank you. Councillor Pandy, I'll hand over to you.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Welcome to the meeting. I'll just tell you the order, who will speak when. And first we'll have the introduction. So I'll start with the councillors, with me.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Alison Holmes.
I'm Councillor Pandey from Mackworth.
Councillor Nadine Peatfield, morning.
My name is Lucy Keeler. I'm a legal advisor and from Legal Services here to assist the councillors today.
I'm Jackie Waring. I'm the Appeals Officer.
I'm Anne Walker. I'm representing the licensing team.
Saima Akhtar from Legal Services, solicitor. I'm just sitting in observation. Thank you.
So we are here to hear the application for a full variation for the Optimist 91 Setwell Street, Spondon, Derby, DE217FH. So are there any apologies?
No apologies have been received.
Has anyone got any declaration of interest to declare? None? Okay. Right, so I'll hand over to the legal.
Thank you, Chair. How the running order will be is that Mrs. Walker from the licensing team will outline the report which has been prepared, and it will then be for the applicant to then put forward what he wishes to say to yourselves, councillors, and any questions you have, you can ask at that time, and any questions that the interested parties may have can be asked through you at that time. Once we've heard from the applicant, it will then be the opportunity for the interested parties to address you, and again, any questions you have can be asked at that time, and any questions the applicant have to the interested parties can be asked through the chair. Once we've heard from everybody, you'll have the opportunity to sum up to the councillors. They will then retire to consider the decision in this matter, and subsequently a decision notice will be sent out to all parties. We won't ask you to hang around for that. It will be sent out, if you're happy to give Mrs. Walker your emails, it will be sent out via email, and that will then set out the decision of the subcommittee today. Thank you, Chair.
Mrs. Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. The licensing team has received an application to vary the premises licence of the Optimist 91 Sitwell Street, Spondon, DE217FH. Officers have delegated powers to deal with variations to premises licence applications where there are no relevant representations received. However, this is not the case today, hence attendance at committee. The application to vary was received from Mr. Derek Chambers on the 11th of May 2022, and a copy of the application can be found at Appendix 1. Within the consultation period, we received 2 relevant representations and a petition with 15 signatures. The representations outlined concerns around the public nuisance licensing objective. These can all be found at Appendix 2. In addition, Extra information has been received prior to the hearing from Mr. Chambers, consisting of 4 letters of support. These have been distributed prior to committee to all parties. The variation relates to an extension of hours for the sale of alcohol and an extension of their opening hours. This means the proposed sale of alcohol is Monday to Saturday 12 noon till midnight and Sunday 12 noon till 2200 hours, with the opening times having 30 minutes added on to those terminal hours. I would just like to bring to the committee's attention, since the Licensing Act 2003 came into force, some activities have become deregulated under the Live Music Act 2012. As from 6th of April 2015, both live music and recorded music are exempt from requiring a licence if the activity takes place between 0800 and 2300 hours, where the audience consists no more of 500 people. The applicant, Mr. Derek Chambers, is also the designated premises supervisor for this particular premises. A location plan for the premises can be found at Appendix 3 in the bundle, and a copy of the current licence can be found at Appendices 4 and 5, which is the licence and the plan. The committee is obliged to determine the application with a view to promoting the 4 licensing objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In making its decision, the committee is also obliged to have regard to the national guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act, the Council's own licensing policy, and the Human Rights Act. The options open to committee today are to grant the application as it's been received, modify the conditions on the current licence, or reject the whole or part of the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks a lot. Councillors, do you have any questions?
Can you tell me, has there been any 10 applications for this premises in the time that it's been open?
No, Councillor, there's not been any temporary event notices, no.
And it's been mentioned that there's, you're probably not going to be able to answer this, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. It's been mentioned that there's 4 close proximity premises. I just wondered what the licensing hours were on those.
Yeah, there's 4. There's 2 premises that hold premises licences and 2 premises that hold club premises certificates. If we're looking at the location plan on Appendix 3, the probably closest is the White Swan, which is on the corner on the little mini roundabout. Their terminal hours for alcohol sales are midnight Sunday to Thursday and 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday. It's terminal hours of midnight Sunday to Thursday inclusively, and 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. There's also the Village Hall as well. That has alcohol sales. Village Hall, that has midnight Monday to Thursday and 1 o'clock Friday and Saturday. So similar hours. Then there's the Spondon Liberal Club on Moore Street. that has midnight Sunday to Thursday, 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday. Do you want me to go on up Chapel Street? There's a couple up Chapel Street. Chapel Street tend to be blocked by the row of buildings there. But Chapel Street, there's another pub, Prince of Wales. They've got midnight on Sunday to Thursday and 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday. Very, very similar hours. And then we've got another club on Chapel Street. That's the same hours, midnight Sunday to Thursday, 1 o'clock Friday, Saturday.
It's amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Peatfield. I have a question. With the noise nuisance, have received, so from December till date, have received many complaints to the Environment Health or to the police regarding noise made at the Optimist?
Licensing team have not received any complaints, and I checked the system before the hearing, and Environmental Protection, who deal with noise nuisance, they've not received any either.
Got another question. On the licensing objectives in D, the prevention of public nuisance, applicant has put the hours of opening are restricted to the time of 12 to 2300. So is this proposed or is it just a typo? Section M
Sorry.
and subsection D.
Where we're looking in the application.
In the application, yeah.
Let's have a look.
In the variation application.
Sorry, what was the query?
The query. Section M. Describe any additional steps you intend to take to promote the 4 licensing objectives.
Oh, right.
And then in D, the applicant has put the hours of opening are restricted to the time of 12 to 2300. And is this just a typo?
I think that's a typo, because obviously what have been applied for in section J is 12 till midnight, Monday to Saturday, and Sunday 12 till 2200 hours, and the opening hours 30 minutes on that. Perhaps asking the applicant what he meant by that.
Thank you. Any more questions from councillors? Any questions from is there anyone from responsible authorities here? No. Okay. So to the interested parties, have you got any questions for Ann Walker, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, I have some questions. A clarification, really. We've just been told Appendix 3, the map on Appendix 3 is for the application, and the map on Appendix 5 is the current plan. But there's 2 parts to Appendix 5. There's a plan on both sides. Now, the plan on Appendix 3 and 5 are different. There's an extra area on Appendix 5 outlined. Yeah, that's the first part. The second part of that is, well, if that can be dealt with first.
Mrs. Walker?
Thank you. Yes, Appendix 3 is put in the bundle just for committees benefit so they can see the location of the premises and where it fits within the locality. The plan and the in Appendix 5 is what is actually attached to the premises licence.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have more questions on that then. There's two plans with Appendix 5. As I said, there seems to be an extra area on Appendix 5 to what you've got on Appendix 3. But on the other side, it does actually say the Hoptimist, indoors licensed only. I've had a look and I can't understand the meaning of that. This is obviously where alcohol can be consumed under the current licence, but can it be consumed under just what's on the reverse side or the entire area that's on Appendix 5?
Chair, I think it may assist, so I'm just, as legal advisor, just to outline some bits. So from what I understand from Ms Walker said, the Appendix 3 is a printout from a maps. So that would show from, say, Google Maps, for example. What you've got on Appendix 5 is what was provided by the applicant when the licence was applied for. In respect of where it says indoors licence only, that would be what was applied for at the initial licence being applied for. So that means that sales take place inside. Some premises you'll find, for example, that they have an outdoor bar, and if they have an outdoor bar, they have to be licensed to have, that has to be included in it. But when there's not an outdoor bar, it's wherever the contract for sale of alcohol takes place.
Okay, so where can consumption take place?
As I understand it, and Mrs Walker, no doubt you'll correct me if I'm wrong, in this application you have on and off sales. So, for example, if the contract for sale is made within the premises, drinks can be taken to another area to be consumed. It's only if there's an outdoor bar that has to be included within the plan. Is that, Mrs Walker, does that concur with my advice there?
Yes.
So, if they're drinking outside, that would constitute off sales.
Yes.
So also in their contract there is a condition that off sales cannot be served in open vessels or bottles.
I think it's in terms of off sales in respect of when you're taking alcohol away from a premises to be consumed at a home address. It can't be that they're given in an open container in that respect. Mrs Walker may be able to assist.
The premises licence for on and off sales. All sales should take place inside. Now, obviously, as the sister has mentioned, they can't go out in an open container. Consumption of alcohol on the premises is not licensable. So they can buy the alcohol inside and take it outside in an open container and drink it outside. Or they can be sold something sealed and they can go off the premises and go home with it.
Just a couple of a bit more clarification. There's several references to capacity limit of the premises. The only thing I can see on capacity is in the current application, Part 3, where it says approximately 60. A capacity limit is a capacity limit. Is there one or not?
Hello. There's no capacity limit on the licence. Normally capacity is set by risk assessment with regard to fire safety. The premises licence holder can do their own risk assessment, or they can have advice from the Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service.
Okay, sorry, it's going on for a little while, not much longer. Also on the current licence, page 7, part 13, it says expect, which is a typo in the licence, except for access and egress, all external doors and windows must be kept closed. What is the point of having the doors and windows closed if people can go outside to drink?
I can only assume that this was put on at the initial application by, it's something, looks like something for our environmental protection team to have suggested. Because they're not here, I don't know the reasoning for that.
Chair, if it's can assist, can I ask a further question of Mrs Walker? So Mrs Walker, can I just clarify, in respect of the Annex 2, would those being conditions which were added when the put forward by the applicant then, when the application was made for the initial licence? Because it says conditions consistent with the operating schedule.
Yes, they can be those suggested by the applicant in the initial application. They can also be conditions agreed during the consultation period of the initial application in when it was last year between the applicant and any of the responsible authorities such as Derbyshire Constabulary or the Council's Environmental Protection Team.
Thank you, Mrs Walker. I was just trying to ascertain that it's not; those aren't mandatory conditions that go on all licences. As of right, they would be put on at that application stage.
That's correct.
Grateful. It may well be that questions are asked of the applicant later on in terms of the conditions that were put on, as they may be the more appropriate people to answer that.
Are there any more questions to be asked by anyone else? Would you like to put your comments on yet?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Derek, and this is my wife, Tracy. Like it's been identified, I'm the DPS for the premises.
Apologies, Ms Chambers. At this stage, do you have any questions of Mrs Walker before we move on to yourselves?
Sorry.
That's fine. There are no questions then for her. Okay. If you'd like then to present your representations.
Sure. Thank you. If I can just try and introduce ourselves first of all, so you get a feel of what we are. We're a very community-based couple. We've lived in Spawn for 8 years now. We care about community and support in many occasions over the last 8 years. We opened the micropub, hence what it is, with the idea of it being a quiet place where people could come, of all ages, come and meet and have a chat, and obviously have a quiet drink. We and the community think it's worked, and this is from the feedback we are getting from not just our customers, but from people who live on the street, through Facebook, unsolicited things on Facebook where we've not instigated. So the feedback we're getting, it's a lovely, safe environment to come. That's why we're getting people of all ages to come and have a drink. We are members of PubWatch. We don't have to be, but we chose to be. So that's a way of us showing our commitment to ensure we operate correctly and support other members within the village. Like I said, Optimist Spondon is a small micropub situated within a very, very busy main road through the heart of Spondon. We focus on cask ales, supporting multiple local microbreweries and the avid cask ale drinker. So by the very nature, our customer, they're not the young kid. Well, we don't accept young kids anyway. They're there, responsible adults who are coming in for a nice drink and a chat. It's got a very, very warm, friendly atmosphere where people feel safe and comfortable. Historically, we opened up in December 2021. We had previous experience of running the Vernon Arms in Spondon for 18 months, transforming it into a very much family-friendly destination that wouldn't tolerate drugs or antisocial behaviour at all. We got a very, very firm stance on that, and we transformed the Vernon from what it was 18 months later to what it is when we left. The same ethos we had for the Vernon Arms continue running the Optimist, where drugs, antisocial behaviour and noise nuisance won't be tolerated at all. A noise management plan is in place, and that was put in place when we first applied for the original licence back in 2021, and we adhere to that all the time, as do all the staff and the customers. Any excessive noise within the premises is stopped immediately, and that's for the benefit of customers and neighbours. Multiple signs are present reminding customers to keep the noise down and respect our neighbours, etc. As per the management plan, regular checks are made of the whole premises during opening times, inside and out and at the rear. Even when the rear room's busy, we'll constantly check in. Outside, in the rear area, the noise can be barely heard, and if there was any noise to be noted, we would take action to reduce this. Light background music is played within the premises, for which you have a license for to play music. I'd like to point that out. This is just to create an ambience for customers while they sit and chat and have a drink. And I do like to stress, it is very, very quiet background music. We are aware, and customers are made us aware at times, that noise levels within our premises are surpassed by loud music emanating from a neighbouring property, and is best described as repetitive rave-style beat music. So that noise is way above ours, and has been commented on by many, many customers. To date, our understanding is there's been no complaints forthcoming from anyone regarding noise or antisocial behaviour, which is a testament to us as how the premises are being run. And the fact that the environmental health team are not attending today's meeting, nor do they have any comments we feel supports this fact. We regularly ask Mr Hind, the landlord of 93A, the gentleman to my right, if there's been any complaints forthcoming, to which the response was not that he is aware. Likewise, we are in regular contact with the tenant upstairs to the pub, and again, no complaints. And they have supplied a letter saying never had any complaints about the noise or any antisocial behaviour at all. We find it sad, obviously, that neither party who have objected to this could come and talk to us about their concerns. We are very open people, and we will speak to anyone. We don't want to cause issues for anyone, so we're open to talk. Unfortunately, we've not had this opportunity. We have multiple times in our early days tried to explain to pleasantries. It was very clear they didn't want to engage. I have engaged with one of the objector's husbands many times, talking about his vehicle in the back car park. We've chatted. At no point has been any complaints saying about the noise. We have respect for our neighbours and the community, and we are both very, very approachable people. If I could specifically comment on some of the details of the objection from 93A Sitwell Street, if I could. So the first one, the objection letter, noise. Loud conversations, drunkenness, having to keep windows shut due to loud noises and early deliveries of stock. Pubs, by their very nature, create noise, and this is something we are committed to minimising. Loudness and foul language is curbed very quickly by all staff. Early deliveries of stock, which is part of the objection letter, we don't have any. At all. Our earliest stock delivery is around about 11 o'clock in the morning, that's on a Tuesday. And that's confirmed by the delivery company who supply us, and an email we've had which I've forwarded on.
Apologies, Mr Chambers. I'm just trying to make a note of everything you say.
Sorry,
Could you just slow down? It's fine. If you could just slow down a little bit. Could you just repeat that bit about deliveries again, please?
One of the specific objections within the letter from 93A was that we have early deliveries of stock, suggesting it's before 0700 hours. We don't have any deliveries of stock until the earliest 11 o'clock in the morning. However, from CCTV, we know that Birds, which is the bakery 2 doors up from us, they have a delivery at 4:30 every morning, and sometimes 5 o'clock or 5:30 every morning. And they park directly outside our premises. The paper shop, which is situated on the same street as us, a few doors down, from 4 o'clock, 4:30 every morning, there's probably 15 to 20 vehicles parked up on the street collecting newspapers from there. Again, there is CCTV evidence about this fact. So, in respect to us having early delivery of stock, we don't. Recently, when we closed up on an evening time, walking home, there's been a few occurrences where the flat above One More Calf, which is 95 Sitwell Street, has been playing unbearably loud music with the windows wide open at 11 p.m. at night. And again, we do have a recording of that as well, just to prove that it wasn't us making the noise. One of our concerns was, and one of the reasons we recorded it, is that neighbours would actually think the noise is coming from us, when actually it's not. There's a concern within the objection about smoking. Smoking is allowed at the premises within a designated smoking area, which is signposted and it's open and is all as per the regulation for smoking areas of public houses. Civil Street is a very, very busy street, and hundreds of pedestrians and cars pass through there daily at all times. Daily, we will brush up discarded cigarettes from outside the premises, whether or not they've been dropped by customers or the passing members of the public. Within the objection for 93, there's a specific comment that we have easy access to see into their lounge area. We can't. At all. If their lounge area is the rear of their property, first floor up, it's a significant distance from the rear of our property, and we can't see in. You can see the windows, we cannot see into that property at all. We have a great deal of support from neighbours in the community and people who have attended our premises. And we have a lot of positive testaments confirming this, and emails and multiple Facebook posts following an unsolicited article on Derbyshire Live and Spot Despondent. Again, we didn't ask for the article to go on Facebook. Derbyshire Telegraph tried to contact us. We didn't engage because we didn't want to prejudice or jeopardise this meeting, so we didn't engage. They went ahead and put this post on, and all I can say, the amount of positive comments surpassed possibly one negative one. 50 to 60 positive comments. The request to alter our hours gives us the flexibility to open slightly earlier or stay open slightly later. We've got no intention of working to those full hours every single day. We do have a life. But it just gives us the opportunity to do that if, for example, the specific function, we have a wake, which we've been approached for multiple wakes recently, but unfortunately we can't do them because of our times. So we'd like to reassure the neighbours that any increase in our open hours will be small, although we have accepted midnight. We certainly don't intend to, but it's there if we need to. And it's not going to be 6 days a week. Currently, it's our choice. We don't open on Monday at all. We occasionally would open on a bank holiday Monday if there needs to be, but we don't. That's to give us some break from the premises. Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays are days of steady trade with mainly couples drinking plus the steady ale drinkers. Fridays and Saturdays are steady, but they become busy from 6 p.m. onwards. And that's when we have usually 3 members of staff on. So we can take control of dealing with the customers and also walk around this pub in the area and make sure everything's all right. Sundays at present, we open at 2 till 8. Occasionally sometimes it's 4 till 8. It's our choice then, but we open at 2. The day is steady trade of people popping in. And again, if our request to extend our hours was allowed, it would help support parts of the community who have asked us to hold family members' wakes, who would like to come for an early drink before they have their Sunday dinner. So then that's why the 12 o'clock one being requested. I'd just like to extend again to everyone present in the room. We care about our community. To be blunt, I've got a reputation that I will not tolerate any antisocial behaviour, and people know that if they misbehave in the pub, they'll be barred. End of story. We did that with the Vernon Arms. Anybody misbehaved, took drugs, or anything like that, they got barred. And we've continued that with where we are now. And we've had no instances of drugs at all, or fights, or nothing. There may be the occasional loud night when someone's having a 40th birthday party, when they're wishing each other a happy birthday. But again, we speak to customers all the time. There's signs up everywhere. Please respect our neighbours and leave the premises quietly when you leave. We do everything we can to make sure life is quiet for everyone. And from the feedback we're getting, it seems to work. Has anybody got any questions for me at all? Sorry.
Can you please turn the mic? Thank you so much. Councillors, have you got any questions for the applicant?
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Chambers. First of all, so you say that you close on Mondays. Are you still intending to close if the licensing times changed on Mondays?
It's a decision we've made for the past time. So I'm calling it probably open. Again, it depends on what we do enjoy a day off. So I think it probably would. We'll do that flexibility open.
So in your mind at the moment, you haven't decided what your opening hours would be if the license was the changes were granted?
Well, we expand this to 12 to midnight, if you will.
And what are your proposed times throughout the week? You say that you've got the option and the flexibility. Would they be any different? So you would open till midnight?
Not necessarily no, without choice. We've got flexibility if we want to.
Yes. So I'm asking you, in your mind, if this were granted, what would your proposed new hours be, opening hours? And you said that your busiest times are your Friday and Saturday evenings. Have you planned ahead that you would still close at 11 on the Fridays and Saturdays, or assuming there's no extra functions, or do you think you would open till 12? Okay, thank you.
Again, 12 gives us the option too, or we have to finish them.
Okay, thank you. Could you describe to us the outdoor area that you have, please? Because it's difficult to imagine in our heads what it looks like, but it sounds like is there some sort of corrugated roof area?
There's two areas. So when you leave the pub premises where alcohol is sold, you go through patio doors into what is an enclosed area. It has a plastic corrugated roof. No, it's the next. It's outside. It's the next. That's the area where alcohol is sold. It has corrugated walls, which I've clad with fence. It's wooded with pallet wood.
And could you explain roughly how many tables, chairs there are outside there, in that area?
In that area there is 2 large tables and two small circular tables, which are oak barrel tops, and a square one, and 2 small shelved areas. 2 small shelved areas where there's shelves on the wall.
And how many would it seat, would you estimate?
$30 comfortable.
$30 comfortably in that area. Is that regular on a busy night? Do you think you'd get 30 sat outside on a warm evening?
It is enclosed, so
Okay.
it's not up to the elements, shall we say. I mean, sometimes the tables are all taken. However, it does mean there's 4 around each table or 6 around each table.
Okay, and just going on to the, let me just find my notes, sorry. The risk assessment that was mentioned by Mrs. Walker. So you have the option to either provide your own risk assessment or take advice from the fire service as to capacity.
Yeah.
Could you explain to us what you've done regarding that,
It was
please?
the fire service who came up with the suggestion that the premises could hold approximately 60 people.
And does that include So would you normally have 60 people maximum inside, including your sheltered area?
That's in total,
In,
including the actual
In the two areas.
area, if you say area 1, which is
Yeah.
the bar area, and then the second area, which is the enclosed. 60 in total? Yeah, yeah, the whole.
There is a further outdoor area which is open, which is accessed from the corrugated roofed area down a small pathway.
And that's enclosed roof, with the door at both ends.
so is it outdoors or enclosed?
So as you come out the corrugated area, corrugated roof, there's a pathway. To the right of the pathway is the designated smoking area. To the left there's a small path which goes down to some steps which then take you to another outdoor area, which is open. Most of it's open to the air, apart from a shed which has one and a half sides open.
But we haven't opened that yet.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes, any questions?
Can I just ask, sorry, again, about the outdoor area? Is there any music played at all outside? Are there any speakers to play any music?
Within the corrugated area, yes, there's 2 small speakers in there, but the music is controlled by the system in the bar, so it is quiet.
Okay, thank you. So how long have you held this licence, sorry?
We opened in December 2021.
Okay. And you've had no complaints, no official complaints in that time? When you say you've got a noise management plan in place, did you have a noise assessment done at all when before you opened?
Before we had the licence granted, a lot of the issue was with the flat above the pub, where they had a acoustic test done. But from ourselves, we provided a noise management plan which went to environmental health, which they accepted the plan was adequate for the noise management. And that was on the back, that was the rationale as to why we received our licence.
Okay, thank you very much.
Could I ask, does the outside corrugated area have any soundproofing?
Apologies, Mr. Hind. If we can just have the questions from councillors first, you'll get the opportunity
sorry.
after. Apologies.
Okay.
That was fine. I wasn't aware that the councillors had finished their questions. I was busy writing. Apologies, Mr. Hind.
Mrs. Walker, have you got any questions then? Please go ahead.
So does the outside corrugated area have any soundproofing, please?
The roof has no soundproofing other than some foliage which is attached to it, but all the walls, the 3 walls, are covered in pallet wood, which will absorb some double-layered pallet wood, which will absorb some noise as such. Although technically, it's not soundproof with soundproof material, the wood will absorb the noise. So, if just I can add on to that, when I related early on about some of the noise coming from next door, so this repetitive rave music is actually coming from 93A, not our premises. So that noise from 93A is way over and above the noise that we create from music in that
room. I had a conversation with my tenant, because I own the building, and Derek's already said once today that the noise was coming from number 95. We've had 3 letters put in late, well, that I've received late, all saying that 93 Sitwell Street is creating this music. My tenant, well, we were talking the other day about actually writing a joint letter and actually asking the other people nearby to sign that letter with us to take it around to number 95 to ask them not to do it.
Mr. Hind,
They
I
have now moved out.
apologise for interrupting at this point. It is just questions of the applicant at this point, and then you'll have the opportunity to make your representations. It's just the format which we have to do. So I do apologise for interrupting. Do you have any further questions for the applicant? I think that would form part of the interested parties' representations, and then you have the opportunity to ask questions.
So has anyone else got any other comments to make, or can we move towards the submission now?
So, Chair, it's now the opportunity for Mr. Hind,
Yeah.
for apologies, Mrs. Moore, to make the representations to yourselves.
Okay.
So that can be now given that opportunity.
So,
Okay. What I dislike about this is it seems to have become personal. Now, I've got nothing personally against Derek and Tracy. In fact, the only pub in Spondon that I've ever frequented on a regular basis was the Vernon Arms when they were in charge. And I know that they do not allow unruly behaviour. And the Optimist is the type of establishment that Spondon needs. It does serve a different clientele to the other pubs. A lot of Spondonians do not feel comfortable in the other pubs. But this is not about that. This is about noise creation for the flat that I own and rent out. The flat above 93 Siltwell Street has 4 bedrooms and a large garden. It was extended in the late 1960s to its current format. It was designed as a family home, and it continues to be used as a family home. The design of the flat, and despite its proximity to the main road, has always been a quiet place to live. I lived there with my wife and 3 small children from 1996 until 2002. And anyway, the Derby City Council Licensing Policy Framework document, Part 5.6 states, when considering applications, the Council will focus on the direct impact of the activities taking place at the licensed premises on members of the public living, working or engaged in normal activities in the area concerned. I would class sleeping as normal activity. The outside area used by customers is very close to the main bedroom, and obviously any noise generated, even if they do close earlier until potentially 12:30 at night, 6 nights per week, is obviously going to have an impact. I mean, I know that if my next door neighbour invited up to 60 friends around for drinks 6 nights a week until midnight, it would affect me adversely. On the point of public nuisance, the focus of the effect of licensed activity at specific premises on persons living and working in the area around the premises which may be disproportionate and unreasonable. The issues will mainly concern noise nuisance. There's lots of things in legislation about noise. We have not made, no one has made any official complaints. Comments have been made on Facebook to the Optimist next door, and action has been taken. It's really hard for someone, you can stop noise once it happens, but it's really hard to stop noise from happening in the first place. And Tracy actually mentioned about we're in communication, and communication does seem to have broken down somewhat. I do feel a little bit aggrieved because Tracy actually came to me a while ago because of a camera that was on the building that was pointing across the back of their premises towards the car park. And she thought it was an intrusion of their privacy because that's the entrance they used to go in and out of. The people that live in the flat were on holiday at the time when they came back. I had a word with him. He has now removed that camera. The camera had been there for some years. It's actually pointing at his van they use for work, which is in the car park, which has been broken into in the past. That's why he put the camera up. It was already there before the Optimist existed. During that conversation, which was not too long ago, Tracy did not mention there was a variation to the hours, or they put in a variation application. So this saying the communication is only one way is not, something's not quite right with that. There is some, in the guidance, section 182, it does say applicants should be encouraged to contact responsible authorities and others, such as local residents who may be affected by the application before formulating their application, so that mediation process may begin before the statutory time limits come into effect after submission of an application. It was by chance that it was pointed out that the application was in. The Licences Act 2003 does allow the committee to impose different conditions on different parts of the premises. None of this is about trying to close the Optimist down or doing any damage to their business. This is purely about the generation of noise in the late evening to a family that have lived in that home for 10 years and in a quiet home which is not all the time quiet now. The noise that is of concern is the noise generated by customers outside of the brick building. That's it, really. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Just referring to the last thing that you said there, Mr. Hind, the noise is generated by customers outside of the brick building.
Sorry, the noise...
I haven't finished, sorry. Are you referring to spoken verbal noise, or does that include music?
Sorry, could you ask that question of the person that lives there?
Yeah. It's mainly spoken, laughter, foul language, occasionally music, but also have concerns now re live music that they want to play, so that will also impact. Oh, right, okay. Still loud.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Moore. You've stated that you've not made an official complaint. Can I ask why?
Didn't know how to until the other day when I was surfing the website. I have, however, contacted on a few occasions directly on Facebook to ask for the customers to respect the neighbours, but I've not received any response from that.
So you haven't contacted the Environmental Health Department or put in a noise complaint or gone down the route of keeping a noise diary or using the noise app, for example?
Yeah, got a noise app and I've also got some recordings as well, but they were too late to submit.
So have you submitted those to the Environmental Health Department?
No, but I will be.
Could I just move on to the signatures, on the 15 signatures? We only were able to view those the addresses of those signatures just before you arrived, and we were then able to see, obviously, that not all of them are on Sitwell Street. So could you explain to us why those people that have signed are aggrieved about the noise, considering some of them are fairly far away from the Optimist?
Because this will be friends and family that are actually joining us at our own premises and hearing the noise and knowing basically what we're actually dealing with.
I think that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to... We've got a bit of a conflict of interest because with the late submissions that we've had in favour of the application, there are two residents who also live nearby who say there is no noise and there are no problems. So it's up to us to try and establish the facts when we're getting conflicting views. Is there any way of shedding more light onto?
I can. Well, I didn't know there were two local residents. The woman that lives above the Optimist, who, I mean, Carlo, the landlord of the premises, I've spoken to him on several occasions when he was developing the Optimist, and he told me that he had to put extra sound insulation in to comply with the rules of letting out the flat above it, and that seems to be working. Plus, also, I think it's a different situation in the case of if you want to rent a flat and you know it's above a pub, that's part of the conditions of you renting the pub. You've got the choice to do that. I think this is slightly different in the case that the pub has come after the tenants. And the other addresses, I don't think are local. One of the letters is from the chairperson of the Spondon Trades Association, and I completely agree with what she puts in that letter. Derek and Tracy are both excellent parts of our community. But this hearing is not about that. It's about noise generation late at night. Sorry, the other thing that comes up in the letters is, I think there's three of them actually state that the noise of this rave music was coming from number 93, and the music has never come from number 93. Having spoken to my tenant, occasionally they have family parties where they are outside for barbecues and things like that. The rave music comes from number 95, and those people have just moved out.
So, another point, do you accept the point that just because this licensing is being applied for doesn't mean to say that those hours are going to be the new set hours? It is entirely up to the licence holder of the hours they choose, and they've stated that it may not change and will only change if there is a late application for a special event or something. It's not going to be, as you pointed out in your submission, every night from those hours. Do you understand that now it's not every night with those hours?
I understand from what they've said now that they don't intend to open to those hours every night, but they have the option to do it. I mean, I run a business, and if money's coming in and people want to spend money with me, I'll be open.
Thank you. And just lastly, it appears on the surface, I mean, we're only getting what we're reading and what you're saying, but it appears on the surface that there is a bit of a breakdown in communication. I think maybe it'd be easier to talk to each other, to compromise on, if there's specific noise times that you feel really aggrieved with, just talk, and rather than it seems to be like you're saying you're messaging and things. Maybe talking might help, or has that broken down too far?
I don't. I mean, I've had conversations with Tracy, as I said, about the camera, and I actioned it, but what didn't come back about this application. If we hadn't seen that notice, this would have just gone through because this hearing wouldn't be sitting. I don't know what question you're asking me, really.
Yeah, I do take on board what you're saying, but at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I don't want to be going around in my pyjamas to complain about noise. The Facebook, that is the only contact reference I have for contacting both of them. Perhaps a mobile number would be better, so we can make communication that way.
Would you be happy with
Yeah,
providing a number?
They actually do have my mobile number because her son came round to give me some fire safety advice regarding fire extinguishers. He does have my mobile number.
That's not me, is it? That's not been given to myself.
Sorry. Councillor Holmes, any more questions?
So would you be happy, providing a mobile number?
Can I just say that, yes, I've had one message via Facebook from a person named Claire Moore. I thought her name was Julia, I didn't know her. It did ask about asking guests to leave quietly. This was at something like 10 to 11, but sadly the person who had sent the message had got settings where I couldn't reply back to her, and I didn't know it was my neighbour. She didn't introduce herself. Her name was Claire Moore on Facebook, and like I say, the settings didn't allow me to return any message to her.
So that's kind of what I'm saying.
It can be worked that way.
Sometimes
Yeah.
miscommunication. So if you're happy to provide,
Sorry. As long as the person sending the message is open to receiving a message back, so we can have open communication. It was a one-way communication message which was sent, so I couldn't reply to the lady.
Thank you. Just in the vein of the conversation of trying to find some compromise, I just wonder if I could redirect another question to yourselves, if that's okay. Have you considered, and would you consider providing more soundproofing in the outdoor area or the sheltered area? Thank you.
Yeah, we're constantly looking at improving everything that we do. I personally feel that because we monitor outside, if I go into area 2 and I think the noise is high, I go out straight away to check if anything can be heard. I invariably can't. So when I go out through the side passageway to go to the outdoor area, which is not open to the public at the moment, I can't hear anything. And if I did, I would go back into area 1 to ask people to reduce the volume. The noise that we do experience is general chit-chat, laughter. Yes, it can be at some points when people are laughing loudly. It's really hard to go and say to somebody, please can you stop being happy? It's not really that easy to say to somebody when you're having a nice time, but obviously when it comes to inappropriate behaviour or foul language, it is stepped on very quickly, and we've asked people to leave if they don't adhere to it. We do keep a log of it. We've logged every occasion we've contacted a guest to curb their language or if to be a little bit quieter. But genuinely, if when we're on and we go into the room and it appears loud to us, we do go outside, check it regularly during the course of the evening to make sure it's not heard outside. So although we're talking about the corrugated roof, it's not just a flimsy plastic corrugated roof, it's a long-standing heavy-duty roof. So it's not just like some little flimsy roof. Yes, it's not got any soundproofing to it, and if I genuinely thought we could alleviate any noise that we're making, we would improve it. We're looking at also logging out some of the back area to make it a little bit more, not just for sound, but also for warmth as well in there. So yeah, we're constantly wanting to improve. And like I say, from my personal experience of monitoring the noise, when I go outside to check if it would be intruding on neighbours, I can't hear anything. And I'm saying I can hear muttering, whereas inside when you go in, it is louder.
I suppose I'm not quite sure whether I understand what you're saying, but my question was, would you consider additional soundproofing in order to demonstrate to your neighbour that you're doing all that you can?
Like my wife said, it is something we're looking at all the time. How we do the additional soundproof will be another matter. I don't understand how we'd be able to do it. I think one of the things I'd like to clarify, if you don't mind, and I'll come back to your question. Within my response to the objection that we received through the post, I submitted a response. And clearly within that response, I have mentioned that the repetitive raving music is coming from 93. not 95. We've got the issue over 95.
The question that I asked.
It's something,
Thank you.
yeah, because the location and what the premise is, I don't know how we'd be able to reduce the noise by putting soundproofing in, how we'd be able to actually function or carry that out, and structurally more than anything else, because of how it is. It's something we'd look at, but whether or not it's an option, I don't know.
We have spoken with really, we have talked about the roof, but more so from like a leakage point of view, really, because it's not perfect. So yeah, we are looking at it, but one quote we had for the roof was £40,000, which from a small business point of view, we couldn't possibly afford.
That's it? Yeah, no more questions here.
Just one last thing for me. I realised that I interrupted Ms Tynd while you were making a point earlier about wanting to get together with the other residents, and I don't think you went back to that. Did you want to go back to that at all?
Well, Claire and I discussed actually writing a letter to take round to number 95, asking them not to be playing loud music late at night, and we were going to ask other residents in the local area to sign the same letter, so it wasn't just coming from one person. But as I've said, we've now found out that they've actually moved out of number 95, so it's no longer an issue.
Thank you for that. And Mr Chambers, did you want to respond to that at all?
So, as Peter, like I stated earlier on, part of our response to the objections, I did mention the flat above 95, but I do make reference to the repetitive rave music come from 93A as well, which I do have recordings of. It was just to prove and highlight that that noise that was being made wasn't coming from us.
If I can respond to that, there was no insinuation that that music was ever coming from the Optimist, but it wasn't coming from number 93 either. It was coming from 95.
You want to say something?
So I think there's some confusion here. 95 was horrendously loud, but I do make reference to the repetitive rave music coming from 93.
And I actually have spoken to Mr Hind about it as well.
Have you ever made a complaint against the number 93 for the noise nuisance? Or you ever thought the noise could have been coming from 93 and not... Sorry, so the music is... So you have made a complaint, a noise nuisance complaint, or you thought?
The issue is that when we've been aware of music being played, loud music being played, when we've particularly closed business as well from next door, from the back garden. There's a lean-to kind of outdoor area which obviously the younger people of the family frequent and play disco, rave music. But then we've become aware that also the property on the other side of the chemist is also playing loud music. And for our concern, we was worried that people who were objecting to us were thinking we are making both those noises, of which we are not playing music like that, or even to that later hour. So, albeit that we're here to discuss our issue that we are impounding on the community, I feel it's a little bit unbalanced because it's we're trying our best.
So would you like to answer the representation? Would the representation that was made, it's your turn to respond to that.
Really?
Any questions you have further?
Well, I'd like to thank Chris for acknowledging what we do within the community. I've professionally worked with Chris for many years. I don't feel our relationship has changed. I still wave to you when you walk past the shop. I have found it difficult to engage with Mrs. Moore because she won't give eye contact, so you can't speak to somebody that clearly doesn't want to engage. So opportunities have been missed in the very early days of us opening our business to engage. And because obviously Mrs Moore also was against opposing our opening of our business, it's kind of continued on. I want to reassure them that we do work hard to make sure that we don't impede on their life. Many times I hear their grandchildren playing in the garden, and I think that's lovely.
Sorry. Have you got any specific questions? Because we can add this on
sorry.
during submission.
No, I'd just like to know, one of the questions I would like to know is why they think we have early deliveries. I can't understand why we think we create that noise, the early deliveries, which we don't have. Why?
I think that's already been... Sure, yeah, please go. I'll let you answer that.
I think it was from when you first opened. I think deliveries were coming before 8 o'clock. I was working from home one day and saw a delivery van and everything being unloaded off before 8 o'clock. But that was when you first opened.
Is that just the one incident?
No, there was a couple.
Right.
Yeah. As far as I know, it's okay now because I'm at work.
We don't have early deliveries. We're at home at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Councillor Pandy, before you start, I think whether or not Mrs Moore wants to address yourselves and also the party behind to give representations.
Okay. First of all, I'd just like to say that I appreciate that the Optimist is a thriving business, and I've welcomed it into the village, even though I've not actually been there myself. Can't afford your prices, unfortunately. It's exactly what the village needs. I agree with what Chris says. But saying this, it's not pleasant living next door to a pub. No objection to longer opening hours, but only if they open earlier in the day and not past 11 p.m. This is obviously just due to the main noise nuisance, which is coming from the back of the brick building, which is made out of the corrugated panels. The roof in particular has no insulation, along with the walls, apart from the wooden decorative planks that have been added. So as far as I know, there is no insulation between a corrugated piece of panelling and a wood. So if they'd put insulation in there, it'd have been quieter. My grandchildren no longer sleep over frequently due to the noise levels, as I find it difficult to get to sleep and then stay asleep. They are aged 3, 6 and 7. This has resulted in me seeing less of them, and so has impacted on our family life. Occasionally we hear the use of foul language. Do not appreciate having to listen to this, especially when the grandchildren are visiting. Not nice listening to the word pedo, and then the grandchildren asking me, what does that mean, Nanny? In relation to any noise coming from our premises, without times and dates, I'm unable to comment on what this was in relation to, as we do after I have family and friends visiting, but this would not have been 7 days a week or continue until after 10 p.m. I work from 7 a.m. in the morning with an alarm call of 5:30 a.m. With noise until 12:30, this will leave me totally exhausted with just 5 hours sleep. That's it.
Does anyone else want to make a representation or any more comments? You got a witness? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry. I'd just like to back up my mum's comments about how it's impacted. Obviously, I have a young daughter.
Sorry, can you introduce yourself, please?
Right, yeah, my name is Adam Nicholas. I'm the son of Claire Moore. I'd just like to back up how it's impacted my mum over these past few months in terms of the sleep deprivation, the noise coming from, and it's not so much that it's the brick part of the building, it's the lean-to at the back, and with it being in such close proximity to the property and in particular my mum's bedroom, you know, I go to the pub, I like to have a nice time and a sociable time, but you know, it's like what Chris said earlier, 30 people interacting in that back room making that constant noise across multiple days across the week, it's going to have a negative impact. And I'd just like to support my mum's comments about how it's impacted my daughter, is a 3-year-old. She used to sleep actually in that room with my mum, but she's not been able to do that because she can't sleep there now because of the noise. And then obviously, occasionally, on a few instances, I have heard foul language coming from that back room, but it's not a regular problem. I do appreciate it. It's a nice establishment. I've been there myself. It's very sociable. They run it brilliantly. It's what the village needs. But there has to be some type of compromise, particularly with that back room. It is that back room which is the issue. If they were soundproofing it or did something to implement it and protect it that way, I'm sure there could become some type of compromise. That's all.
Can I just reply? Regarding the noise in the back room, if you see the statement from the tenant above the pub, although she's got sound insulation flooring, she's got her bedroom window is also at the back. I ask her regularly if she can hear any noise from our establishment. That's not from the main brick building, but also from the outdoor building. She lives above the property and overlooks the outdoor building, but she doesn't hear anything.
So anyone else making any more comments? Can we proceed towards the submission now then, please?
Thank you, Councillor Pandy. I think Mrs Walker outlined your the ways in which you can deal with this today. I don't think you have anything further, or do you, Mrs Walker?
No, all I would say is I just bring to the attention of the committee what their options are today is to either grant the application as it stands, modify the conditions of the existing licence, or reject the whole or part of the application. Thank you.
And Councillor Pandy, if you would like to let the interested parties then sum up and leave the final representations to the applicants.
So interested parties, can you please sum up your representation? Thank you.
Okay, quite simply, this is about noise generated and occasional bad language by customers outside the back of the building at unsociable hours for neighbours who are trying to sleep in order to lead their normal lives. The committee has a duty under the Licensing Act 2003 and their own licensing policy to consider application that will focus on the direct impact of the activities taking place at the licensed premises on members of the public involved in normal activities. And on hours, there is no general presumption in favour of lengthening licensing hours, and the 4 licensing objectives should be paramount considerations at all times. And restrictions might also be necessary on the parts of the premises used for certain licensable activities at certain times. And the Noise and Vibration Licensing Act says, consider noise and vibration does not emanate from the premises so as to cause a nuisance to nearby properties. One thing that I should have brought up in my earlier thing, but I'd like to bring up now, is that I spoke with Claire the other day and we wondered if there was some sort of compromise where they didn't use the outside area after a certain time, and Claire said that she would be quite happy to accept that, and the new hours as the outside area wasn't used.
No, I've got nothing to say.
From our perspective, I think we've shown over the last 5 months how responsible we've been. The fact we've had no complaints formally from anyone shows what kind of a stance we run. We've explained that although we've asked for these extra hours, we've certainly got no intention to use them to the maximum because we'd like a life as well. We would like to work together with the neighbours to come to some sort of understanding or to support them in preventing the noise as best we could. In relation to the non-use of the outdoor area at a certain time, that would be very, very difficult because, again, it's a very, very small micro pub. We work that hard to keep the noise down. I think we've shown the fact we've had no complaints from environmental health. We have kept the noise down. And we've had no complaints from neighbours, opposite, across the road in other flats, above, or the landlord of our property, which tells me that we are doing something right. So for us, I think we can't work any harder than we are. We've achieved what we want to do, and whatever we are doing is working, to be honest.
Thank you so much. I'll ask, I think we're coming to the end of the meeting. I'll ask Lucy to explain you the decision process. Thank you.
So as I outlined earlier, the council is now going to consider all that's been said by all parties this morning, and they'll then come to their decision as to how what they decide. That will be then put into a decision notice, and that decision notice will be sent out to all parties so you can see what their decision is, and it will also outline any rights of appeal that there are in respect of this. So we don't want to keep you waiting around. I think Mrs. Walker has all of your email addresses. If they don't, if you just want to give them to her at the end of this meeting, and then that decision notice will be emailed out to you once it's been drafted and signed off by the councillors.